Hey Seattle, how you doing? Good to be here today. Welcome. Thank you all for being here this morning. We are really excited. We're particularly excited to be joining our partner Delta Airlines in this fantastic city. You gave us an incredible welcome yesterday when we celebrated our first flight between Seattle and London. We're honored that so many of Seattle's business leaders, entrepreneurs, and members of the startup community are here with us to celebrate again today. It goes without saying that Seattle is recognized as a powerhouse of innovation, progressive thinking, and entrepreneurship. That reputation has been earned by many of you in this room. Given our roots as a startup in the aviation industry and the legacy of our founder, whom you'll meet in a minute, that same spirit is in the DNA of Virgin Atlantic. We've always been focused on enabling the entrepreneurial spirit of our flyers as they travel the world to make their ideas happen, and we can't wait to join all of you in your journeys. Before we hear from some of today's most inspiring entrepreneurs, I'd like to honor someone who had that same spirit over 100 years ago here in Seattle, Bill Boeing. Boeing has continued to lead the way in aviation innovation ever since, including the development of the 787 Dreamliner, which we are very proud to be flying on this route from Seattle to London. Fantastic airplanes. Boeing, you're a fantastic partner to us, and we want to thank you for helping make today happen. We'd also like to thank the team at GeekWire, who welcomed us in Seattle straight away and have played a massive role in also making today's event happen. Now I'd like to introduce Mimi Jung, who's the morning anchor for King 5 News, who'll be leading us today. And thank you all again from everyone at Virgin Atlantic for being here this morning. Thanks. Mimi.
Thank you so much, Chris. Well, hi, everybody. It is great to see you here. Are you guys ready to have some fun? Yeah. Welcome to those of you joining us in this beautiful space here in Pioneer Square. Thank you to Axis. And welcome to those of you who are also watching on our live stream from around the world. We are so excited to have you here today for Virgin Atlantic's Business is an Adventure event as we celebrate the airline launching a direct flight from London to Seattle. And it's really no surprise that Virgin Atlantic is tapping into the Seattle market because this city, my hometown, is a powerhouse for innovation, for progressive thinking, and for entrepreneurship. And as Chris mentioned, it's that same entrepreneurial spirit that is in the DNA of Virgin Atlantic. And that is why we have brought here today some of Seattle's most inspiring visionaries, as they're going to share some stories and advice. They're going to be talking to you about how they've made change in their respective industries as entrepreneurs, and they're going to talk about the impact that they are having on the rest of the world. If you have any questions for the panel, which I'm sure you will, please tweet them using the handle @VirginAtlantic and make sure you use the hashtag #HelloSeattle. We'll try to answer some of your questions at the end of the event. Also, if you're watching the live stream on Facebook, you can leave your question in the comments section. And if you're using Snapchat, we have a custom filter that is pretty cool, so make sure you use that. We'd love to see your photos with that Snapchat filter. Again, the hashtag is #HelloSeattle. Remember to use that hashtag on all of your social media posts. We'd love to see your messages, your pictures, as you enjoy this event today. And now, I'd like to introduce a man who is perhaps the most fearless, risk-taking entrepreneur on this planet. He founded the Virgin Group, a leading international investment group and one of the world's most recognized and respected brands. Virgin has pretty much driven change in every industry, from travel to transportation, financial services to leisure and entertainment. His bio is several pages long. I could probably go on and on about him, but without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Sir Richard Branson.
Nice
to see you.
Where do we sit? Anywhere?
Right here.
Great. Thanks everybody for coming. Oh, this is comfortable. Feels like a Virgin.
It's just like
a Virgin America seat. Very.
I knew this was going to be.
The colours are right. Oh, and
a
boat Atlantic seat. Sorry.
Just a few minutes ago, I asked Richard to take a photo with me and the rest of the panelists, and he said, "Let's pick her up." And so I'm laying like this. That's when I knew this was going to be a fun event.
I haven't had ladies falling head over heels for me for a long time, so I have to pick them up. It's the only way.
I'm flattered. Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here.
It's always wonderful to be here.
It's fantastic that Virgin Atlantic has a new direct flight from Seattle to London. I think besides Seattle, London is probably the second best city in the world.
I could never afford to get to Seattle, but now we've got
and
an
now
airline.
You can.
Yeah.
Why is Seattle to London such an important route for Virgin Atlantic?
Well, I think London to Seattle is also quite important. I mean, I understand why a lot of Americans might want to get out of America right now and go to London.
He's getting straight into the politics right here.
But strangely, there are still a few Londoners that actually quite like coming this way as well. No, I mean, look, Seattle's a beautiful city. It's one of the more environmentally friendly cities of America. It's got fantastic young entrepreneurs that are really wanting to make a difference in the world, and a lot of them are here today. Whoa, somebody's talking loud over there. So we're delighted to come, and we just happen to be flying Boeing's wonderful new 787 on this route.
It's a nice airplane.
One of the lovely things about it is that it's made largely of carbon fiber, so much lighter than the past planes. So 20% less fuel burn, 20% less carbon emissions. And I was actually with Boeing this morning and asking them also to look at something called graphene, because that can be even lighter for future another 10 years from now. But it's great to be working with a company that is willing to innovate.
I love the story about how Virgin Atlantic started. And it started as a challenger brand like so many other companies with Virgin. But you've got to tell the story about how Virgin started, because when you look at it, it's like, really, you thought you could go up against British Airways and all of these other huge companies?
Well, excuse me, because I suspect people have heard this story before, but it's a fun story.
It's such a good story.
So we'll tell it again. I was in Puerto Rico. I'd been off on a business trip for 3 weeks. I had a beautiful lady waiting for me in the Virgin Islands. I was 29 years old. And it was 6 in the evening, and American Airlines decided that they didn't have enough people in their plane and told us all to come back the next morning. I got a beautiful lady waiting for me. I'm damned if I'm going to wait till the next morning. So I go to the back of the airport and I hire a plane, and I borrow a blackboard and I write Virgin Airlines as a joke on $39 one way, and I go to all the people who have bumped and I sell out our first airline. And then the next day I ring up Boeing and say, I wonder whether you got any second-hand 747s for sale. They say, well, what do you do? And I say, I've got a record company. I've got the Sex Pistols. I've got the Rolling Stones. They didn't seem very impressed. I said, I've got Genesis. I've got Peter Gabriel. Anyway, so the guy said, well, actually, bizarrely, we don't normally sell second-hand 747s, but we do actually happen to have one. But he said, with a name like Virgin, I really think you should change the name, because people will assume that your airline won't go the whole way. So, anyway, the rest is history. That was 33 years ago.
Before we move on, I got to wipe my lipstick off of your face.
No, leave it.
It's going to distract me the whole time. So, Richard, the event today is called Business as an Adventure. And, if you've ever Googled Richard Branson adventure, wow, you come up with some incredible things. But obviously, an adventure includes risk. It includes failure. It includes challenges. And we're going to talk about, we know your success. We're going to talk about some of that during the panel. But I want to talk about some of the challenges that you've had. It hasn't always been smooth flying. In fact, there was way back when you started, there was an incident where a bank manager came looking for you. Can you tell us about that? And this is just one of many stories where you've been challenged.
Yeah, I think if you're first of all, when we started off in business, there wasn't the internet. It was, you had to use yourself to get out there and promote your business. I mean, you still have to an extent, but I, in order to make sure we got on the front pages of the papers, would do weird and wonderful things like jumping in balloons or boats and trying to kill myself and somehow surviving. And anyway, the Virgin brand built over a number of years. When we launched that one 747 across the Atlantic, the Queen's Bank, Coutts and Company, were our bankers, and they thought I was completely and utterly off my head. And what is somebody who's in the record business going into the airline business for? Or what is somebody from entertainment going into the airline business for? And I mean, they didn't actually realize, nor did other airlines, fortunately, that actually people like to be entertained on airlines. Yes, I came back from the inaugural flight, and there was the bank manager sitting on my doorstep, and he came into my house and said that they were going to foreclose on the whole Virgin Group on the Monday morning, and this was Friday evening. You shouldn't really do this with your bank manager, but I just went over to him and I sort of pulled him off my lounge and I pushed him out of my house and told him he wasn't welcome in my house. And then I sat down and was shaking with fear and anger. But over the weekend, somehow we rang up all our companies around the world and managed to scrape together enough money to pay him off. And by the Friday, we'd found another bank that were willing to give us an overdraft facility about 5 times more than the previous bank. So I think one moral of the story is don't get too attached to one bank manager in the same way, particularly if they're from the Queen's Bank.
Well, you've never been afraid to go against the big guys, clearly, and you've had a lot of fun sort of ruffling the feathers of your competitors, shall I say?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we've always enjoyed, I think if you're a smaller competitor taking on a bigger competitor, you need to have a lot of fun at their expense. and it can help put your brand on the map. And obviously British Airways were the big competitor. They did everything they could to put us out of business. And any opportunity, we would take. So, there's a lot of stories, but there was one fun one, which was they had. I was rung up at 6 a.m. one morning and was told that they had a problem with a giant wheel opposite the House of Commons, and they had technical problems. They had all the world's press there to see them putting this wheel up. Well, we happen to own an airship company, so I rang up the airship, as you do. I rang up the airship company, and I got them to fly the airship right over the wheel, and it just simply said, BA can't get it up. We got the headlines, and they didn't, and so we've had our good moments taking on BA and a few a bit frightening moments, but we've somehow survived.
Things you can still laugh about now. Well, on that note, shall we bring out the rest of the panel?
No, I'm enjoying you talking to you. You've got you all to myself.
I know, we can sit here all day.
Bring
Fortunately for us, we have 3 other amazing individuals with some incredible stories. Let's bring out Nadia Shouraboura, Jonathan Sposato, and Chase Jarvis.
I know exactly what you're
Hi. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So Nadia, sitting to the right of Richard, is the founder and CEO of Pointer, a retail revolutionary. And Nadia has extensive retail and technology experience. Clearly, she brought the shoes. She actually didn't walk in with those. She walked in with some basic black pumps, and she said, with the little wheelie bag, my shoes are in here. The real thing. So thank you, Nadia. She served on the leadership team at Amazon before launching her own venture, Pointer, and setting her sights on the future of retail. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you.
Jonathan is a serial entrepreneur. That sounds sexy.
He does?
And investor in many startups.
Can you tell my wife that?
Exactly. She might have a different opinion.
That's right.
Jonathan is chairman and co-founder of GeekWire.com, one of the tech's top news sites, and CEO of PicMonkey, one of the world's most fun and popular photo editing tools. Great to have you. And the snazziest dresser on the panel.
Thank you.
And we
Means a lot coming
have
from you.
Chase Jarvis as well. Chase is widely recognized as one of the most influential photographers of the last 20 years. He's currently focused on working as the founder and CEO of Creative Live, the world's largest live streaming education company.
And we're streaming this event right now.
You are streaming this event on Creative Live as well.
Right here.
Like, right
there.
You're looking good. Hello, Creative Live.
And I think what we need to do is take Jonathan's look and my shoes.
Yes.
Put it on him, and that will be really the snazziest.
You know, I know a photo editor that can do that.
You do you. That would be awesome. So maybe by the end of the event, you can somehow get her shoes on.
That's
that
right,
that would be a
yeah.
feat. We were talking about business as an adventure, and you guys talk about an adventure that you've all been on. I'd love to start with you, Nadia. How would you describe business as an adventure for you?
To me, it's lots and lots and lots of downs where you're totally desperate and you're crying every night and you're taking out pizza boxes and you're dreaming about a glamorous life, and instead of that you're folding jeans behind the counter and you're servicing naked men with their underwear like in my retail business. And
She's talking about the time when I went into her store.
See, I don't
got a
mind.
little carried away.
I don't mind servicing Jonathan. It's the rest of 95% of men which I had problem with.
Too kind.
And so it's seeing men in their underwear and just.
It sounds awful.
It sounds
I
awful.
mean, shall we go home? I don't want to encourage anyone to start a business. It sounds like a nightmare.
But then there are moments up, and this is my usual Tuesday. I drink champagne. I sit next to Sir Richard Branson, which makes me look completely normal.
I would say that's
What
the
are you trying
highlight.
to say?
Jonathan, what about you?
You know, I do think of business as an adventure, which is why this panel really resonated with me so highly. I try to, like at every turn, I think the fun of it is to learn something new so that you can apply it forward. And you know, I turned 50 last week, and yeah, it's so. Oh, okay, you don't have to clap for that. Actually, please don't clap for that. But no, my point is that you realize.
21 girls.
You're too kind. You're too kind. So, but the point of that is that I think it's important to take stock of one's life and what you're choosing to spend time on, because time is so precious, those of us who have families. And so when you think about how much of your business life consumes you, man, it better be fulfilling. You better be sort of fulfilled, enriched by learning something new or getting a chance to work with really awesome people, being able to sit on panels with other distinguished panelists and learn something there. So for me, it certainly is an adventure, and Nadia speaks very candidly about some of the trials and tribulations and the pain, but also I like to also look for the fun too. So,
What about you, Chase? How would you describe business as an adventure for you?
Well, I think life is an adventure right now. Times are uncertain. I think the idea that you're going to go to college and then you're going to graduate and get a good job, and that was the sort of the traditional view of life or your pursuit of a career. I think this is the first time in the history of the world that's the riskier behavior. Never before have there been so many opportunities to learn from others, to, as you guys said, spend time around amazing people, build community because of the internet. And so to me, it's the first time in the history of the world that some of these barriers that have historically been there are no longer there, and it's up to us to seize this opportunity, so to throw ourselves into adventure. And I think there's no one better to, I guess, model after than Sir Richard. To me, that's the adventure that is upon us now, and it's an amazing time.
Chase, you talked about the fact that going the traditional route, going to college, doing this kind of the straight and narrow is the more riskier route. But
Yep.
I'm sure that you are all here because you're successful and you chose the riskier route, which may be dropping out of high school and pursuing that dream. For you, might be something else. What was it that you did that was not traditional that got you to where you are today?
Well, I think we're sold a narrative, and that narrative is that false narrative. And it's very hard. I mean, I came lower middle class family, white, suburban. I feel like I had most of the advantages that you could. And I still felt really challenged to fly in the face of convention, to bail on professional soccer, drop out of medical school, quit a PhD in philosophy to become a photographer. And yeah, if you're a parent out there, you're going like, oh no. And I mean,
are you giving your parents their money back?
I think that that's something that we need to recognize as a culture, that we're steering people towards this narrative that used to be safe and used to be perceived as what you want for your child. I think you should really reconsider. And I don't want us all to be shining examples of success, because I think if you asked any of us, after this event when we're off stage, we could talk to you about all the hardships, about the pizza boxes, about the failures,
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome. What am I doing up here? Ultimately, I think that if we can change the narrative, and Seattle is an amazing example of a city that can do this. If we can change the narrative and help people understand that we really can take charge of our future, to me, that's what the next generation is about.
I think one of the most inspiring things to hear from a panelist like you is to hear those stories of challenge.
Oh, how much time you got?
Only half an hour. But because it's those stories that make people out here who have dreams and vision to know, I can overcome that or keep going, because if these folks can do it, maybe I can. Yeah. So Nadia, tell me.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Richard.
There's a very, very thin dividing line between success and failure, and especially when you start a business maybe without any financial backing. So, for years, for most of us, you're battling just to stay the right side of that dividing line. And then, of course, some people don't manage to stay the right side, and their companies fail. They will have had the most incredible education, in the process of fighting to survive. The key is then, pick yourself up, brush yourself down, and start again. And it's easier to say, but it's absolutely critical. And the next time round, you will have, you'll be that much stronger. You would have had the best education anyone could have given you in your first pursuit of success. And it's likely that, as long as your name isn't Trump, that you'll succeed the second time around.
Well, what keeps you going? When you have doubts and fears, because I'm sure you have, what keeps you putting one foot in front of the other and saying, I believe in this, or I'm going to keep going?
I just as you said a few moments ago, I just love to learn. So I see life as one long university education that I never had, and I'm learning all the time. I'm learning about the airline industry. I'm learning about the train industry. I'm learning about the mobile phone industry. I'm learning about climate change. I'm learning about the space industry. I'm learning about all these different things that we're jumping into. I'm learning about conflict resolution issues, and it's just the most fascinating course I could have ever gone on. And I don't want to waste the position I find myself in. I think if you're lucky enough to, and all of us on this panel pinch ourselves every day. If you're lucky enough to have that breakthrough and have that success, and if you can get to a stage where you can pick up the phone to anybody in the world and they'll take your call, you can achieve fantastic things, and it would be such a waste if you didn't actually put that position to good use.
Jonathan, what was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, again, how much time do you have? I'd like to actually sort of add to something that Richard said just now, which is that, sometimes, how do you overcome adversity or some of these really, really dire challenges in business? Sometimes I look back and I reflect back on the most important or the best things in my life, whether that's raising a child, whether it's being really, really, truly good as a partner and a spouse and in a relationship, or building a company. When I look back at those things, in retrospect, You know, frankly, I remember some of the bad stuff, but I tend to remember the really great stuff. And I'm always super glad that I traveled that journey. So the moment when, if I have any current challenges, I think about that. I go, well, how might I think about this or remember this moment in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And that's how I push forward. Now, to give you an example of some of the challenges, I think one of the biggest challenges, particularly in tech, is our issues around diversity and gender equality, right? There are only of all Fortune 500 companies, there are only 24 female CEOs. There are only 7% of women, I think this is in business in general, not just tech, only 7% of board members of Fortune 500 companies are women. You know, Nadia, one of the few female CEOs, and she's rocking it. So I think about those challenges, and those are the challenges that I care passionately about, and wanting to build companies that have, you know, at least 50-50 gender balance, like PicMonkey, or at least reflective of the split of the customer. So I think that those are really hard challenges every day.
And 2 years ago, you announced that he was going to invest in only female-founded companies or co-founded companies, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll be the first to say that I'm often surprised at what things resonate and what things don't, and I think others can relate to that. When I made that statement, it was an authentic, like, you know something? This is bullshit. We have to get the pipeline of female funded companies to be more. We have to have more of them. And so I made a personal statement, not meant to, you know, have it be trending on Twitter for 3 days or whatever. But it really did resonate with people, and it touched a nerve. And now I can look back and be like, oh, I know exactly how sort of the opposition feels when there's pushback and when there's, you know, debate around, oh, wait a minute, aren't you being reverse sexist? Or what's wrong with the current playing field? It's level, so if you don't see a lot of women in the C-suite, well, it must mean that there aren't very many qualified women, right? That's all bullshit. The playing field is not actually level, and we need to change.
In Scandinavia, they in Scandinavia, the government said, right, you've got to have 40 to 50% women on every board.
Yeah, that's right.
And I asked a group of women in LA at a women's conference in LA what they thought of this, and none of them agreed with it. My own feeling is that they should agree with that, because I think us men, or I mean, hopefully not men on this panel, but I mean men generally, will just. Actually, I was guilty of it today. I met somebody from, you know, Boeing Space Division, and you know, I didn't know that she was a woman until I met her today, and I could tell my brain it was just going, is this the right person? You know, I mean, which is, you know, so we need to be. Another one. My wife was on a plane many years ago, and the pilot came across as a woman, and I could see her think she's a woman. She was nervous about a woman being flying the plane. Anyway, so I think we need to cut through all that, and you need laws to force us men to change the situation. Otherwise, I think in 50 years' time we'll still be having this conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in Scandinavia, where they have forced women onto all the boards, the companies seem to be doing much better. Women know about shopping, they know about a lot of things that us men are not very good at.
Right. Yeah, the product's better, the teams collaborate more. I actually want to point out that it's the year 2017, and the Equal Rights Amendment has still not been adopted. Right? Think about that.
Any women? Would any women be up for that in America to force the law change?
Yeah.
Clap loudly if you want to change. All right.
So Nadia, I'd like to ask you, as a female CEO, you're a minority in this world. How has it been like for you?
Bossing men around.
Yeah, you do.
It's a great feeling.
But I'm sure it's not always easy, and it hasn't been always easy for you.
No, it wasn't. But actually, what keeps me going is not the aspiration or big thoughts, but rather anger. When I left Amazon, I opened my own store, and every asshole from Amazon would come into my store and make fun of me. And after a year of that, I decided this is it. I am going to step up. And that's what kept me going, the assholes.
Chase, you have millions of people watching from around the world on Creative Live. I'm a children's photographer on the side, and I have taken many of your courses on Creative Live, so thank you, for being able to provide that service to people who can just sit in the comfort of their own home and learn. Let's talk about global reach. How important is it for you to start a company that can have that worldwide reach?
Well, one of our primary core values at Creative Live is access. And the way that access manifests itself is in a myriad of ways. One, to transcend the financial hierarchy that we have worldwide, to be able to take a class from a world's top expert like Sir Richard, where all you need is an internet connection. Any country in the world, we reach every country on the planet every month. I think transcending that, the race, the socioeconomic status, the geographic challenges, it's a part of who we are. And access as that core value is aimed to transcend all those things, but it's also internally. We provide total transparency to all of our financial data at every all-hands meeting. We make sure that everyone has access to the same information. The slides that I show at the board meeting, those are the same slides that we show at our all-hands meeting. So from internally and very small thinking on a one-to-one or one-to-many basis internally to, as you mentioned, the global reach. I mean, we have 10 million students on the platform. We would not be the company we are. I wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't if we didn't have a mission to try and empower everyone. As the narrative that I mentioned earlier about it's the first time in the history of the world where opportunity can reach further than it has ever before. And to be clear, we're not where we need to be. We are sitting here in Seattle, which is a tech-centric city, talking about access. Fortunately, there are companies, Facebook, Google, others that are trying to reach out, but only when we can include that population of the world will we truly have a diverse and empowered workforce, a diverse and empowered culture. And to me, that's what it's all about.
So if you're an entrepreneur watching and you have an idea, you're just starting out, should you start thinking globally right away, or is that something that you do later?
I feel like part of the biggest challenge for anyone who's trying to chase their dreams, and I'm sure there are a lot of people evaluating that in their own mind right now. They're stuck in a thing that they don't want to be in, and how do I take the first step? So thinking about a global stage can be intimidating and painful and scary. And so I would encourage you actually to think small first. There's a lens of the lens of diversity, the lens of access, the lens of cultural awareness of empathy that you need to have on every decision that you make, and that will help the global thing. But first of all, I would encourage people to think small. What can you do today? Because there's nothing harder than getting started. And if you ask any person on this panel, I think that's the biggest hurdle. The global aspect, if you have it in your DNA as a human, which I would encourage all you to think deeply about, what do you stand for? What do you care about? Put that into your work. And if empathy and global awareness and access are a part of that, I think you'll be off to a good start.
You can have a brand that can work global. So think locally initially, but then a brand that will work around the world. So you can start dreaming about going around the world one day. So try to come up with a brand that will work on a global basis as well, I think. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Mimi, you had sort of asked this question to the aspiring entrepreneurs out there. I think that I agree with the comments that have made that I think I would posit that sometimes being values driven as a company, even a small company and a small startup, can be an incredible competitive advantage, right? I think sometimes at super large companies, unless you have a really strong, charismatic leader who's constantly asserting and reasserting what the values of the company are, I think sometimes that can get lost, and people seek fulfillment. Employees who are going to quit their day job and actually, join your mission and believe in you and to work at lower pay. The sort of the contract there, the exchange is that they're doing something that they truly believe in, that they believe in the leader, they believe in the values of what the company stands for and what they do for the customer. So I do think perhaps it's not thinking globally per se, but it's about how you reinforce positive values.
And I read a quote that Richard, you had said, business is not about dollars and cents, it's about creativity creating something really special that is going to make a wonderful, positive difference to other people's lives. And I thought, wow, if all businesses could have that philosophy.
But that's the values point of view. Like, I feel like people, that's not just some shit you write on the wall. It's not just at the top of the header. These are things that you make decisions with. Every decision that is a product decision at Creative Live, does this provide more access to people who want to be on our platform? It's a filter, and if, as Jonathan said, like you start to use that as those are guideposts that help you make decisions rather than just stuff that's confetti or something on the wall. To me, that's North Star, and it provides so much direction and so many solutions when you could be stuck otherwise.
If you don't do that, you don't deserve to survive, and most likely you won't survive. I think. I mean, because a business is simply, making a really positive difference to other people's lives, and if you're not doing that, then you might as well not be being an entrepreneur, be in business.
You guys have your hats and hands in every different thing. It's not just one thing. How do you keep the multiple plates spinning and not go crazy? And when do you know to hone in on one thing?
Just have great people around you, and that's what that's all the business is having wonderful, motivated people who believe 100% in what you're doing and what the mission is, and giving them the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to make good things, not second guessing them. Making sure that they're the kind of people that treat the people who work for them in the same way. Not lavishing praise on people, never criticizing. Looking for the best in people, and then if you get that right, you can have 300 companies because you've just got these wonderful people around the world doing wonderful things.
What about you, Nadia? How do you balance it all?
To me, it's not about balancing. To me, it's about creating phenomenal experiences, which are makes you feel something different. I've been with Amazon for many years, and I've been very focused on very short experiences. Speed matter a lot. 2 minutes, you're in and out, in and out. And if you think about it, and it's not a bad experience, and some people think it's a great experience, but for the rest of us, it needs to last longer. So for me, it's the reward of creating these long-lasting, beautiful experiences, which lasts for 40 minutes.
And we're almost out of time.
I think I'm married, darling.
Jonathan, with just a few minutes.
What do you think the right duration is?
I told you she was great.
I know, she's spicy.
I said that.
We're just collecting data here, data points.
Data play. We're going to talk about foreplay here, and we'll come back.
This panel has gone off the rails, folks.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
We'll do it again. We'll go off the rails.
Get us back on track.
Yeah.
How do you keep your multiple ventures going, and how do you know when to say no to something?
Right. So I really appreciate the question, because the truth is that actually is currently one of my biggest challenges. So I'll be the first to say that I'm more lucky than good, absolutely. And so sometimes you get lucky multiple times and you realize, oh my gosh, I've got these different plates that I'm spinning. So that's not always planned. But one answer, in addition to having really great people and focusing and organizing your time, your week in a certain way, is that you can actually play with the timing of that some. Usually, I have found that not everything kind of hits at once. Maybe one is high growth and it needs a lot of your time. Maybe you're changing the management structure and that does require you to be there more, and more meetings with the board and all of that stuff. And then while something is still in the planning stages and still just gestating. So oftentimes you can kind of have, they can be sort of phase shifted, as it were. And then maybe there's one that's getting ready to sell and you've created sort of a lot of value there and it's ready to take some money off the table. So I think being focused and being cognizant of how you can phase shift some of that timing to the extent possible is one way.
Chase, I would love to ask you about your, you can tell me if this is correct, but probably your biggest professional failure.
Okay.
Last year, I was heartbroken when I read your blog post about about why you stayed off Instagram for the last 6 years, what happened to your app, which I had and used, the best camera app, and how do you grow from that? How do you pick yourself up the ground, stop beating yourself up over a lost opportunity?
Short backstory, I created the first iPhone app that shared photos to social networks, which ended up being a pretty big deal, I guess. And we were, a year and a half out in front of all of the other photo sharing apps. Instagram was basically a lift and stamp copy of Best Camera, and it should be. They were very good. You've seen them do the same thing with Snapchat. And I had been in a relationship with the developer. That relationship went sideways. We were it's not like saying you made this thing and then it was, I coulda, shoulda. We were #1 in the App Store app of the year. And at that point, I was really identifying, as I'd spent all this, 10 years focused on really what does it mean to be an artist and how can you make things, just have that be your vision and mission in life, is to be a maker. And then this concept of an entrepreneur came along when you have it was basically a sphere of success. And without going into the weeds, the lawsuit that I got in bogged us down. I walked away from never work again money from publicly traded companies trying to buy the asset, and just had to let it sort of rot on the vine. And about a year ago, after all of the paperwork, I got the intellectual property back. It was long since irrelevant because it was 5 years or whatever. Instagram has hundreds of millions of users at that point. But it was just a point of pride. So after that debacle, I was able to tell the story. And to cut to the chase in the story is that was the single most important thing in shaping grit, which I think it's a characteristic that is not talked about enough in entrepreneurship. B, as Sir Richard said, dusting yourself off and getting up again. And maybe C, the most important things that have gone into creating and navigating venture capital and leadership and all that stuff with Creative Live. Those are all lessons that I learned in that failure. And it's the blog post is long, it's a TLDR, but if you want to, the nitty gritty is in there, and I think that the key takeaway is that without those things, you're nothing. Because if you just walk on the stage and you're just successful, first of all, I don't know who that happens to, and that doesn't sustain itself. Second of all, it's only the down moments that really help amplify the up ones. So to be able to be shameful about that thing, and then to realize that is the gift that has put me in a position to succeed. I don't think there's a single, you talked about assholes at Amazon, you've talked about challenging companies. Sir Richard has no failures, so we have to move on. But I think that the juxtaposition of those two things is truly beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for your inspiring stories. We could sit here and talk all day. You guys are fascinating people.
You're not going to kick us off stage.
We're not going to kick you off stage. In fact, we're going to bring some more folks on to allow them to get a chance to ask you specific questions about their companies and businesses and get direct advice. How's that? So we are first going to introduce Nishant Singh, who's the CEO of Peach. The company launched in 2014. Peach makes sure that you get lunch from your favorite restaurants, dropped off at your office every day, no lines, no tips, no delivery fees. Available in Seattle, San Diego, Boston, and Washington. Welcome, Nishant. So you have 3 minutes to ask your questions to this lovely panel.
And get us lunch.
And get you lunch.
So when the first time I flew in a Virgin America flight, Sir Richard, I was blown away, partially because it was very pretty. Everything was very pretty, the colors, the smiles on the faces. And so I was also in London and I also saw Virgin in a couple of other places. And one of the things that I always have thought, also read, because I read your book when I was a kid, how do you make people fall in love with your products? And also, how do you make people fall in love with you?
I look in their eyes. I think let's take an airline as an example. I mean, we all have the same aeroplanes, We buy them from either Boeing or Airbus. But you have a blank sheet of paper, and I mean, 12 years ago we decided to come into America with a new airline because we just thought the airlines that were currently existed in the States were really badly run, and there was nothing joyous about traveling on them, and you just got to get every single little detail right. So when you walk onto the plane, you've got to have people going, wow. The way you train your people, and the way you've got to have them genuinely 100% believing in your product, so every little thing just must sparkle, and then the people who actually run the airline, I mean, if they're traveling on the airline, they must have a notebook, they must listen to, go and talk to the staff, talk to the customers, write down, all the little things, sometimes tiniest little things. I mean, like, you may have just given all the crews new high-heeled shoes, and if they're rubbing their heels, they're not going to be smiling, and for God's sake, sort it out. Write it down, make sure you sort it out the next day, and that's what a restaurant owner who has just one restaurant. That's why people go to restaurants where the owner is there, worrying about all the little details. If you're running a bigger company, you've got to pretend that you are, a hands-on chef in a restaurant, worrying about all the details for the bigger company. And fortunately, most of our rivals, the bigger airlines, just do. I mean, I suspect that most of the chief executives, they get on private planes. They don't even fly on their airlines very much, and therefore they don't get that kind of feedback. So detail, getting the general picture, but then the detail is really important, so that, and then you've got something exceptional.
Cool, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And my next question is around people-friendly business. So I've been thinking about a lot of businesses that I see are very profit-friendly, and I think this is for the whole panel. As you grow your business, you're going to add more and more people, and you start thinking about, okay, now I'm driven by profit, I want to make $1 billion, or whatever that is. How do you keep your employees happy at that time when there are a lot of them, and you want to make your company more of a people-friendly company or employee-friendly company than a profit-friendly company?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this one. I do think it's really important to listen to your employees and understand what motivates them and what fulfills them. And again, as I said earlier, I think that you have to be very values-driven. So at one of my companies, PicMonkey, we boast a 50-50 male-female balance, and that's something that really resonates with people and actually becomes a magnet draw for a lot of employees, men and women. And so I think being a good listener and understanding where their values are, and I think that's kind of like a reciprocal thing, is one way. The second way is I do think that it's important to be as transparent as possible, and I do think it's important, and I think that this is true of knowing everyone on this panel, that transparency and vulnerability are really key attributes that not only are they kind of expected, but people deeply appreciate it when a leader can be vulnerable and say on occasion, you know what, right now, today, I don't know the answer to that question, or I'm confused by that, but you know what, with your help, we'll figure it out. And so that might be my second answer in terms of how you keep people happy.
People, products, profit, in that order. Take care of this takes care of itself, and then this takes care of itself. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, whether that's at home or work. There's so many things in this world that you can't choose. You might as well choose good people.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hold on. Normally, normally on a panel, it's the women that dominate the panel, but this lady's got to have a chance to talk. Yeah. Come on.
If I were in your shoes, people are great, product great, love great. You're doing lunches. You need to run your trucks 20 hours a day, so think beyond lunches, to keep your trucks busy all the time and keep your people busy all the time, and then the profit will come.
I remember I was in a meeting when you were speaking at Amazon. I was in Amazon. I was in the same division as you. And I...
Did you know this? Did you know this?
And I remember Nadia was telling the same thing, work harder.
She wasn't meaning
I meant exactly him.
Oh, exactly.
Just look at this. No.
You made me, thank you.
Well, clearly I'm not shopping in my store, I can tell you right now.
He's got game.
That's from a local company, Nordstrom.
You can talk afterwards. Nishant, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Tammarrian Rogers. She's a board member on Ada Developers Academy. Founded in 2013, Ada Developers Academy is an intensive software developer training school for women. It combines 6 months of classroom instruction in cutting-edge web technologies with a 5-month internship at Puget Sound area tech companies. Welcome.
Thank you. I think I was instructed to look at you and look at this, so thank you for being here. Thanks for sponsoring this great event, and welcome to Seattle. So with Ada, we've had tremendous success. The demand is there. We have, for example, we have more than 500 applicants to get into a 48-seat cohort. That number is growing, so the demand is very high. What we'd like to know is, what would you, as a nonprofit organization, what are some suggestions you have to help us grow? The rapid growth that we have, we know we're going to expand to more cities. We want to reach more women, more non-binary gender people. And so what would you say is a great structure for us to look at to expand?
I'd like to suggest something, which is because I've been tracking Ada for a long time, ever since I was on the board of the Tech Alliance with Susanna Malarkey, and it's just, I'm a huge fan of your organization, and you have actually taken it even further, which is amazing. I'm very impressed with the various cohorts of women that graduate every cycle, so congrats to you. You know, I honestly think we have, you know, with a lot of startups or endeavors, it's like you have way more hype than substance. You guys have way more substance than hype, and I think you guys could do more PR, proactive, like toot your horn, and I think that can do wonders for a nonprofit like yours. You guys, you know, sing your praises, and I'll help you with that.
Okay, we'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We have one other one.
Okay.
One of the challenges that we have with the women that graduate from the program is, of course, they come from this environment where they're with other women, other non-binary gender people, and this is a great environment to learn. But once they step into the tech room, the tech workplace, it's not as inclusive, it's not as supportive. And so the question is, how can we help to really make a drastic impact on transforming the culture of tech industry to be more inclusive?
Yeah. I'm actually writing a book on the subject, which is, I've been reluctant to blurt that out because you know, there are a lot of other things to talk about, but 7 ways to win with women in tech, which is all about things that tech companies can do to engender greater diversity and gender equality in the workplace. And I would love to actually work with you to get some of your stories, but one of the first things that I talk about, and I deliberately say it in a controversial way, which is that men must lead the change. And what I mean by that is that men must change first. And the reason is precisely because right now it's mostly men that are metering the oxygen. It's mostly men that are controlling who has a seat at the boardroom, or who's in a C-suite, or who's hiring on that interview loop and hiring candidates. So I think that's one of the key things that's got to change. The second thing is that leadership just simply has to commit, and it has to come from the very, very top. And I think that it's important to get people to acknowledge that there's a problem in the first place. If you look at the stats, a couple of the stats that I rattled off earlier, it is pretty abysmal for the year 2017. But there are a lot of other things that I will personally take a note to work with you on, and because I, again, believe in your mission. I think you're doing great things, and I would take all the Ada graduates I can if I could. So.
All right, we will remember that. It's being recorded.
Write the forward to the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just jump in?
Absolutely.
So I think the idea of PR is really interesting. I would love for you all to tell your story, to tell that story first. I think there's so often the tech part of the story and the education, the coding. I think that is dominant. I would love to see you lead with your core values. The why you are making what you are making, that's why people care about it. I think what you've seen in Virgin is a brand-first company. That's the why governs their decisions. And if you can lead with that and storytell around it, I think it would be empowering. I think it would spur your growth. I think it would be a very easy. I mean, humans learn in narrative, and if you could get that narrative on the minds and lips of other people, I think that's powerful.
That's excellent, because the co-founders have excellent, outstanding stories to be told, and so I think that's a great point.
Right. Tammarrian,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
And last we have Ziad Ismail, Chief Product Officer of Convoy. Founded in 2015, Convoy is the world's largest network of trucks with guaranteed capacity and real-time GPS tracking on all shipments. Welcome.
Thank you.
That's hot. That's
Yes.
hot? Yes.
Hello, panelists. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey.
Hey, so there's this interesting challenge that we have at Convoy. Faster than we expected, we have some of the largest brands, kind of consumer packaged goods companies, have started adopting our platform. That's great in many ways, but it's put pressure on us to expand faster because they're global companies. They cover all of the US and lots of different types of trucking. And so the thing we have a lot of conversations about is like, how do we balance expanding quickly to meet the needs of our customers versus staying focused and doing a small set of things really well, because we want to serve our customers well. So I'm interested in your perspectives on like when you've had these kind of big growth kind of trade-offs and how you've approached them.
I'm not sure whether it's, when we had record companies and they got over, say, 100 people in a building, I would call in the deputy managing director, the deputy sales manager, the deputy marketing manager, and say, you're now the managing director, the marketing manager, the sales manager of a new company. And we ended up setting up 25 different record companies around the country. Obviously, keep competing more without the outside world rather than with each other, but a little bit of competition with each other. It was small. So we became the largest independent record company in the world, but only because of all these different record companies. And so maybe you try to sort of set up small units around the country to manage it, and don't try to do it all from one bigger and bigger and bigger central company where everybody loses touch with each other, and people can't really take credit for their successes or ownership of their failures.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'd like to add something. This is something that, as I see John Cook over there, my colleague at GeekWire, I'm reminded of the fact that in the past we've often had conversations like this around, do we go broad or do we go deeper and vertical? And I think that it's important to pick a lane. And I think that there isn't necessarily one right or wrong answer. Maybe they're both right. Perhaps they're both wrong, but you're going to find out and screw up fast. Yeah.
Okay. My second question is about values. Like, I've worked at big companies, maybe not quite the experience you had at Amazon, but and also at small companies. And the thing that I find distinctive is that small companies, like most of them at least have the sense of mission, and the values of the founder kind of completely resonate because the company is so small. Most companies, as they grow bigger, it tends to hollow out and tends to become like more soulless. And so I'm interested in, like, as we think about growing our company, like, what can you do to prevent that hollowing out of the mission and values and making it, like really make it still true?
I think I've already given the answer to that one, so somebody else?
You have to put energy into it. If you think that the values are just going to perpetuate on their own, Creative Live once had a growth spurt, went from 6 to 90 people in just under 18 months. And you have someone who's only been there for a month hiring someone, and it's through no fault of the process that values get lost. And the team that's producing this broadcast today, they know that I stand up in front of the company and talk about our core values at literally every single meeting. And it's sort of like the thing, if you turn your back on something, it's it's probably not going to grow in the way that you want it to. And if you can get the values instilled in the humans, not just yourself, because the values, they start at the top, but they exist everywhere. So what can you do as a leader to instill those? It's not just about talking about it, it's about living them. What can you do to instill those at every level of the company by recognizing people, by making decisions based on it, and not just having them be that thing on the wall? But I'm dying to hear, because you talked about Amazon so much, and we've thrown assholes under the bus, we've got all kinds of stuff, but you've done such an amazing job, so I think you're maybe the best person to give advice in this case.
Well, first of all, I feel so sorry for you. Growing so fast and having all those growth problems must be really, really hurting you as an entrepreneur. With all those challenges, Dosh, I don't know.
Do you want me to
I think Sir Richard gave a perfect answer. Keep it small and thank God every day for you growing so fast. And try to break your teams into small ones so they have a chance to compete and be ready to change, because one day you grow fast and the next day you need to figure out what.
And be willing. I think you also must be willing to delegate yourself. I mean, I'm a great believer that entrepreneurs should very early on in their business put themselves out of business. I mean, basically, what you should be doing is having the time to find somebody who's better than you to run the day-to-day running of your business, and then that person should be, getting the people who are working for the various different divisions of your company to find people who are better than them to run the day-to-day running of all their divisions. So you're freed up to, think about the bigger picture, be a true entrepreneur and push forward into new areas. Knowing that if you get run over tomorrow, the day-to-day running is working fine. You can also spend a bit more time looking after yourself, your family, your body, other things, and not just burn out. But I think companies that do that, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs are not willing to do that. Everybody's happier as a result, and you'll definitely be happier. And I think the companies will flourish more as a result.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to have time for one question, either from Twitter or Facebook. And this person asks, I'd like to make a difference in the world, but I'm not sure where to get started. What's your advice for those who want to make a change for good? This is big.
Sounds like an episode of Silicon Valley, actually.
Who wants to tackle that one?
Yeah, go for it, Richard.
No, you go.
No. Nope.
Oh, well, okay. Better be good then. No, well, first of all, I think every single company in the world in this day and age must realize that by now we can't rely on governments to sort out the world's problems. So, and every single company in the world are generally run by entrepreneurs who are very, very capable of tackling problems. So apart from just running your company, you should take on an issue and try to address that issue. Maybe a local issue, maybe a national issue, maybe an international issue, and that will also be a fantastic motivator of all the people who work for your company to know the company, is more than just a money-making machine or doing its main mission, but also adopting another problem. If we can get every company in the world doing that, most of the problems in the world can be solved. If you're an individual, I mean, one of the first things you could maybe do is try to persuade the company you're working for to take that attitude, and maybe get other people in the company to come up with ideas for what the company could attach its flag to, and what particular challenge the company should overcome, and should try to teach the chief executive as to why this will be enormously beneficial and why the staff will love them for it.
Any of you have an answer for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Scratch your own itch.
Scratch your own itch.
If you are chasing a random market opportunity and not, I mean, think about Richard's founding story. there's a problem that he or someone he's close to that he knows that problem really well. If you're chasing random market opportunities, when shit gets hard, and it will, you need to have the energy, the stamina, the grit, some of those other characteristics that you've heard us talk about on stage to push through that stuff. And if it's something that you care deeply about, I love when challenges come up because I look at my competitors and I wonder if they have the grit to push through this. And so if you can solve something that's meaningful to you instead of a random opportunity, I think that you've got the leverage where others might not.
Yeah, I really love that. And I would add that it's absolutely okay to give yourself permission to not know for a while. That, you know, I know speaking for myself, I didn't pop out of the womb knowing that this is how I'm going to dent the universe or create this, you know. So I think it's okay to let it find you and have a sense of authenticity about it. You may not be itchy when you are a young person thinking about the world, and you may have other priorities. Maybe it's about just, hey, I'm going to make enough money to buy my first house. But as you develop in life and your life becomes more nuanced and complex and you see more and you observe and understand the world better, those itches might develop, and then it finds you.
Nadia?
What's your itch?
I find one thing which drives me nuts, and then I go and try to fix it. For my business, what drove me nuts in retail is that you come in and you see piles and piles and piles and piles of crap, and you need to search through that, and you need to dig through that, and it's maddening. So I was set to fix that. Just find one thing which drives you nuts.
One thing that drives you
Perfect.
nuts. Sir Richard, Nadia, Jonathan, Chase, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you.
Warm round of applause for them.